Hello guys, I show you in this episode how to do HDR with a free plugin that goes with Lightroom. Come and join me and this is the final result. Bonjour mesdames et messieurs, my name is Serge Ramelli and welcome to episode 33 of my photography, Lightroom and Photoshop tips. Last week's episode was just a Q&A session about my tools, tripods, cameras, anything that I used. If you want to check out this episode, you can go on the YouTube channel or on my website at photosearch.com. This week, I'm going to show you a plugin. It's almost a free plugin called Enfuse, Lightroom Enfuse. The purpose of this plugin is to blend the exposure of different exposures. For example, this photo, this is the normal photo, that's the underexposed photo, and that's the overexposed photo. We are going to use this free plugin to get that result. It's a beautiful plugin, and the reason I show you this is because a lot of people wrote me saying that they don't have Photoshop or they don't have Photomatics and they still want to be able to blend different exposures. So I have a nice art. I looked on the web, I found this, and let me show you how it works. Bonsoir mesdames et messieurs. So today I want to show you a very interesting plugin that I found for Lightroom and I've been using it for a while. The reason I'm showing you this is because I got a few mails from people saying that they don't have Photoshop CX6 or they don't have Photomatics or HDR AFX Pro, they only have Lightroom and they want to be able to take 3 different exposures like this photo. This is a very old photo that I took years ago. One of my first photos because it was an amazing sunset in Paris and it was the Canon 5D Mark I. So that's the normal exposure, which is a bit underexposed. That's the underexposed, which is really underexposed. And that's the overexposed. And first, before I do anything, I want to show you the plugin and how to install it. And how to install several plugins on Lightroom. So I'm going over to photographers-toolbox.com, products, blah, 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 LR Enfuse for Lightroom Enfuse. You can just type on Google Lightroom Enfuse, or you can go to the description of this video, on YouTube, and you'll get a link to this plugin. It's an amazing plugin. Basically, it's almost free HDR. The reason why I say it's a free HDR because it's a donationware, meaning you just give whatever you want. If you want to give you $1, €1, €5, whatever, and you will unlock all the possibilities of the software. And it's really interesting. And the purpose of this is to be able to basically melt together several exposures, just like HDR. When we are faced with a situation like this, where you want to get all the details in the windows and you want all the details inside, so there is 4 exposures and that's the end result. You can see everything, and that's the final result with a bit of Lightroom. So let me show you how it works. And first you have to click on download LR Enfuse. Once you've done that, you will get a zip file, okay? And the zip file is called LR Enfuse, LR Enfuse, LR plugin 0.42.1.zip, okay? Now I advise you to put this zip file into a folder anywhere on the computer that you will call like Photoshop plugins or Lightroom plugins. I have ones called Photoshop plugins. I put all my plugins there. So when you double click on it, you get this file. It's a very simple file, LR Enfuse LR plugin. Then all you have to do is go to Lightroom, go to File, go to Plugin Manager, okay? And then you click on Add a plugin. You go to your folder there, you choose the LR Enfuse plugin and you click through Add Plugin. Now I'm not going to do it because I've done it already. And so this is all my plugins and here is the LR Enfused, okay? Once you've done, all you have to do is put in your registration code that you will get once you've done your donation. And basically the rest is self-explanatory, nothing special. Nothing special. Yeah, plugin authors tools. You may have to click on reload plugin if somehow what you see on this video doesn't work. That's the only thing I might think of. Okay, and all right. So that's basically all I had to do to install it. So now let's see how it works. Now as usual, if you have watched my videos over the last months, whenever I do HDR, whenever I do photo merging, you know, my workflow is to get the best out of the raw files before I do any blending. Whether it is digital blending like 2 weeks ago with Photoshop or Photomatics, whatever, I always retouch first in Lightroom, get the best out of my raw file, and then I do something with it. So let's start off by just this one photo. So I'm going to start by, you know, my usual workflow is to open up the shadows, bring down the highlights. Now that already looks wow. That was really an amazing sunset. Then I'm going to press the Option key, press the whites, and go to the right until I see some white spots, which is here. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then I go to press the Option key, click on the blacks, go left until I see a bit of black, a bit more than the whites, as usual. I'm not going to re-explain everything. If you follow my tutorials, you know the trick, or you can watch back some past episodes. But that's the whole idea. That's my main workflow. Highlight, shadows, white, and blacks. Okay, next, this photo is maybe a bit too dark, so I'm going to boost the exposure. Okay, maybe boost a bit of clarity. Actually, not that much. I don't want to boost the clarity. No, I don't want to boost the clarity on this one. Actually, might go the other way around. I don't like how the water is like very harsh, and clarity would make it even more harsh. Okay, once that I do that, one thing that I always do is unabide profile correction. That's pretty important. Check the difference before and after. You know, there was a vignetting effect that they took out. Now you see that photo has got lots of dirt on it. The reason is this was shot with a Canon 5D Mark I, and the Canon 5D Mark I did not have this dust. I don't know how you call that. That things that, you know, this electronic thing that takes the dust out. That works really well now on Canon, on new, like on the 5D Mark II or on 7D. But on the Mark I, I had dust all the time, as you can see here. And I'll show you a very fast way to take them out in Photoshop, and another way if you don't have Photoshop. Okay, so I just did lens correction. I'm going to do the remove chromatic aberration. I'm going to zoom in on this photo, see if there is any noise. There is a bit of noise, but not very much. I'm just going to take the noise out. Then I'm going to boost the sharpening, and I'm going to go about 90 on the sharpening now. See how it makes, you know, a grainy sky. So don't forget to press the Option key, and you go to masking. You go to the right until you've got a mask. Only what's white is going to get sharpened. So we only want the contour to get sharpened and not the sky. So that's kind of cool. Okay, I like that. So that's good sharpening, and that's good. Good sharpening, and took noise out. We still have a lot of chromatic aberration because it was a shot right into the sun, but that's okay. It's, you know, it's mostly red chromatic aberration. If I go and uncheck the remove, you see it's even stronger. But one thing I can try to do is go to amount here. You know, you've got two amounts. You've got the purple hue and the green hue. We are more into the purple hue, so I'm going to put the amounts around somewhere here to see if it does anything to this red thing, and maybe move the hue somewhere there. See what that happens. Let's check it before and after. Okay, it doesn't do much. It does not do much, so skip it. Let's just skip it, and I'm going to put the amount back. I'm just going to leave the default remove chromatic aberration. Okay, so that's that. That's all I'm going to do on this first photo, right? And then I'm going to select all three photos, and I'm going to go and click on sync, and I'm going to choose everything, and I'm going to click on synchronize. And basically what I do is that I'm just, you know, synchronizing all I've done on the first photo on the two other photo. So now let's take the underexposed photo, and let's just make sure, that's very important, let's make sure that the maybe that it's brightening up a little bit, because it's really dark. It's really way too dark. Okay, and let's take out noise. I'm going to go big time. I'm going to go like 90, and I'm going to go like 80 on colors. Two types of noise: luminance, which is the little grains you get, and color, which is the little blue and green and red spots you might get in dark zones. So I know that photo is very noisy, so I'm just going to get the noise the hell out of it, because when you blend them using Enfuse, it's, you know, it's just going to do a better job. Okay, then we go on the overexposed one, and I'm just going to keep it that way. I'm not going to do much on it. I'm just going to keep it that way. Okay, now I've got my 3 exposures and they have been worked on. Now I could use the technique that I showed you 2 weeks ago with digital blending, but let's say you don't have Photoshop. This is another alternative you can do. So now once you've selected all 3, you go into File, plug in Extras, and now you have this new option called LR Enfuse, Blend Exposure using LR Enfuse. So I'm going to check it. And you have 4 tabs. First tab, Configuration. So use application hosted by the photographer toolbox. That's the one I leave by default. Enfuse 4 for Mac OS 10.5 and later. That's my case. I have Mountain Lion, so that's that. If there's a problem, I just can click on reinstall apps, but it should work fine. Preview size 500, that's all right. Preview applications, preview point app, all right. Okay, that's cool. Then auto align, I just make sure it's on. Automatically align image before blending them, cool. Okay, this I don't touch, I just leave it on. Now Enfuse, what works for me well is, I mean, you can try different settings, but it says this option tell Enfuse how important the exposure, saturation of or contrast of individual pixel is when calculating the blend. Whereas for exposure blending, the exposure should have the highest importance. For focus, stack blending, the contrast is most important. Now what we're doing, like there's 2 types of basically of blending. You have exposure blending, which is what we are doing, and you have focus blending, which is when you have different depths of field that you want to stack on. That's another tutorial. What we are doing today is exposure blending, mesdames et messieurs. And that's why exposure weight is the whole way at 1. I want it to do a good job. That's usually saturation, I leave it around here, and contrast maybe somewhere around this. Okay, now that's what I do. That's my default settings, and I just click on Enfuse Image, and now it's gonna basically export the photos and check it out here. It's gonna do all kind of things, and it's gonna infuse the image. Now I'm gonna put on pause because it's gonna take about 2 minutes. Okay, and I'll be back. Okay, when it's done, and that's one problem with that plugin, is I've not found another way to do this, but it basically opens the Finder for me and shows me the final image. So now you have to re-import it into Lightroom. I show you a very quick trick to do it. I'm into a collections for that podcast episodes, so I can just right-click here and go to folder library in library. That's going to show me where my photos is. And I'm just going to right click here and I'm going to click on Synchronize Folder, because Enfuse has put that photo in the same folder than the original, you know, where the 3 exposures was. So I can just synchronize, click on, make sure add is on and click on import, and it's not going to go straight back into Lightroom. I want to go back to my collection that I was using, so which is episode 32. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to drag and drop this in my collection of my episode 32. It's actually episode 33. I messed up on the name of the collection. This is episode 33. So no mistake. Okay, so that's the result. It's a TIFF file. It's a TIFF file. It's called, and look at this. It's not so bad. If I make a comparison, I take this photo, that's the normal photo, and that's the infused photo, and I press the C. So we have got on the right the infused, and on the left the photo. You can see right away that, you know, the water is a lot more silky. It took the water from the long exposure, but you feel that it took some data from the long. I mean, and if I click on it, it's not so bad. I kind of like what it does. It's sort of like you know, it's pretty clean, there's no noise. It really did a good job of blending all 3. The problem is that as every software doing this, it lacks of contrast. So we need to do a bit of a developing on it. So first I'm gonna do what? I'm just gonna add some contrast. Mostly that's what it's missing, contrast. I'm gonna add some real contrast, maybe lower. I know it's a crazy sunset, but believe me guys, that's one of the nicest I've seen in Paris. I took a lot of photos that day, and it was, you know, big wide shots, you know, it was crazy. It went on for about 4 minutes and I was rock and rolling taking photos. Okay, now the cropping is not right, so let me take the crop tool. Let's take the angle. Let's make sure that our bridge is straight by following the bridge with the angle. Perfect. Let's maybe back this down a little bit, you know, make this a bit more panoramic. That's my trick. Okay. So, and now we can do our usual retouching, you know, on it. I can add some clarity maybe. Oh, no clarity. I don't like what it does. There is a lot of spots. So what you can do if you don't have Photoshop, well, you can just use this tool, you know, the spot healing brush tool. And just you go and you take out the spots. You know, I'm going to give you, I'm going to give you the opportunity to buy the raw files for $3. The 3 raw files that I've took. If you want to do this at home, it could be something nice. But one thing I want to do is I want to take this out, and this can only be done really well in Photoshop. So, but you don't have to do it. That's just me. I want to take this out. It's just not very nice. Okay, so yeah, I took out most of the spots, but I loved how it, you know, just blended all 3 exposures into one, you know, for free almost. I think I gave, you know, for if you give $3, it's $3. So let me maybe boost a bit the exposition of the exposure of the whole thing, and let's do some post-crop vignetting. That's important in this type of sunset. So we have some like crazy scene here. Okay, and now I will just go into Photoshop and take this out. So I'm gonna right click and go edit in Adobe Photoshop CX6. Okay, edit with a copy of Lightroom adjustments. Absolutely, I want everything to be done. So I'm launching Photoshop CX6, and I'm just going to use the same tool to take this out. All right, and let me take this out. So I press Command J to create a new layer. I never do my retouching on the original layer, and I'm just going to press the S key for the stem tool, and I'm going to go here and maybe just stem this out. Just don't like that thing here, and maybe replace a bit something like that. Yeah, okay, stem tool. That's cool, and I'm just going to press Command W and just save it back, and it's going to go back into Lightroom. I just could not stand saying that. Now, of course, if you don't have Photoshop, you cannot do that last step, but you can do a lot. You've got to try this LR Enfuse and take several exposure of a very it only works really on contrasting scene. You know, like if you're an interior designer photographer, you shoot the scene and you will be able to see what's outside and what's inside. It's a beautiful plugin. I just love it, and I love the result. Voilà. Before I leave you guys, I just want to talk to you and answer a question that I get a lot. What's the difference between the free videos you make on YouTube and the training that you sell on your website? Well, there is three major differences. One is that it's a lot more in depth. I usually go a lot more step by step on this training. For example, this is my last training, Photoshop CS6 retouching, which is like 6 different projects. I take a bit more time, you know, I go a bit more slowly, and you have a lot more projects. You know, this is like the equivalent of 6 episodes, and you get all the raw files and all that just for $10. So it's not very expensive. So raw files you get for free. If you pay the $10, you get all the raw files, and you also have all the quick start course. For example, Photoshop CS6 Quick Starts is a 2.5 course with maybe 20 raw files, where I will try to give you the basics of Photoshop in a couple of hours, and with lots of examples. So it's a lot more in depth, a lot more raw file, and all this for just $10. And if you want to support this podcast, you can buy one of these free training, and you get a very good price. You get, I made a new package, which is $63 instead of $90, with 9 of my training. That is like 18 hours of training and about 100 raw files for $63. It's a steal. It's probably the cheapest training you can find on the internet. So I try to make it as low as I can. I try to make things as free as I can, so that everybody can learn something. So that's basically it. And also, if you are Français and you speak French and you are following my tutorials, I made a new page on my website. It's called Tutoriel, which is a French name. And you have a selection of French tutorials, only French, en français, that you can find on my partner, tuto.com. So that's totally something new. And last but not least, if you go on podcast, which is the last point page, on my website, you get all the past episodes, so you can, where they are. If you want to watch back some episodes, I've got now 33 episodes up, and you can also purchase for $3 the raw files being used for each show. Voila, thank you very much, and let's get back to the studio. Well, I hope you liked that episode. I really love that plugin, and it's very powerful for people that don't have Photoshop. And sometimes I think it gives even nicer result than the HDR Photomatics, HDR FX Pro, or even Photoshop. It's a beautiful. Okay, one thing I want to ask you, if you've got any other questions about my photography that you would like to be answered in another Q&A session, just leave comments on the YouTube video so I can see them and probably do another Q&A session. I know people have been asking me a Q&A session about how I got into photography, how I started making money with photography, and this is coming soon. Thank you for following this podcast, and if you can share it and promote it, that'd be very nice. I think it can help a lot of people. See you next week, and au revoir.